All right, everyone, welcome to this newest bonus episode for NASS. In this episode, like we have been doing for the last couple of weeks, we are going to be touching on the show Horror's Greatest. So more specifically on the third episode. The third episode of Horror's Greatest revolves around hidden gems. So with no further ado, I will be your host for this episode, Jose.
I will be your other guy, George.
And I will be your hidden gem, Maria.
Oh, oh,
Not,
damn.
Oh,
not very hidden. Not very hidden. I'll be your in the flesh gem.
it's funny. Before you did that, in my head, I was like, damn, without making up names, it's so bland. The intro just feels so awkward. And then you
Uh,
did that, and it's like, all right, we're back.
yeah.
You know, it's awkward being the third one, but at least I have a couple things going for me where I'm a little bit different than you guys, just slightly different.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
just a
yeah,
little, just a little bit.
yeah. You're shorter. That's it.
Yeah,
That's the only thing.
that's the
Much
only
shorter.
thing. There's nothing else.
That's
Much.
that's the only thing. Besides
Yeah,
that, basically triplets.
Yeah,
I know.
came out of the same mold.
Well, that intro was a good segue. Again, we are covering the episode that revolves around hidden gems. So, going into this episode, we talked at the end of the last episode of what we probably were going to expect, and we were hoping that we were going to get some true hidden gems that were even hidden from us who tend to watch a lot of movies. So, with that being said, right off the bat, I want to ask a simple question to you guys. How many there was 14 movies that they covered, not counting their list that they actually covered and talked about. How many of the movies discussed did you guys watch? George, let's start with you since you probably have seen the most out of us.
Well, okay, just to be clear, I marked it as because I wrote down every single movie that was
Yeah.
talked about and shown, just so that first of all I can have the list and I can like, oh, I want to check that one out, even though they didn't talk about it. So I marked it off of that. So I got 11 out of like 36. Of the 14, I don't know exactly how much that covers. I did write down all my movies that they talked
Uh,
about. So
so you're like give or take like 30%. Let's just go
something
with
like
that.
that. Yeah.
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 Which I thought was
Well,
pretty good considering.
yeah, I mean, that's not too bad. Especially like if honestly, if this percentage would have been high, would it really have been hidden gems? Or would it
Exactly.
just been, low-key movies that many cinephiles have seen? What about you, Marie? What number were you at?
I'm shocked that I've seen four of them in the main list, which I was shocked about because I was like, I'm not going to see any of these. I saw four in the main list, and I saw seven out of the ones that they like brushed over.
Okay. I'm
Yes.
not sure, not too far off. Out of the main ones, because I only counted the ones that they discussed. Uh, I saw three out of those 14. So somewhere around, I don't know, 16, 17% of it.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
for me, that paid off in what the episode was supposed to be for me personally. I mean, even with George with his, 30%, I feel that's a payoff. If 70% of the movies you can be like, I've never seen those.
Yeah.
So
To clarify, eight of the movies they talked about, I saw.
okay. All right, not as hidden gem for you. Then
Yeah.
sticking with the movies that they did talk about out of the 14 movies, what was the weirdest one to you that you were just like concept or visual, whatever, you were like, that is the weirdest one? Because there was a lot of weird ones that were included in there.
I would say maybe the Santa Sangre one was pretty up there. Yeah, I was like, okay, that's I don't know. I don't know if I'd watch that one because it's too much and there's like kind of kid stuff involved, and I'm like, yeah.
You want to describe a little bit the Santa Sangre? What
Oh
made it
God.
weird for you?
Can I? Can I describe it? Like, what the hell was happening? It was like a circus freak show. It takes place in Mexico City, right? There's like tall tattooed woman. There's like the big there's a it's a father, no, sorry, a son and mother relationship that's weird. And it starts off with the son like growing up in this freak show, and the mom has no arms, it looked like, and their relationship's really not appropriate, and what the kid sees isn't appropriate, which is why I don't want to watch it because I don't want to see I don't like seeing kids in any sort of like especially sexual type situations where it's like that's way too uncomfortable for me. It just looked way too wild and bizarre, and like I don't like anything that has like too much of like a overtly like I don't want to be a prude, but like there's certain types of sexual situations I really don't want to see.
Mhm.
And this is seems like it's kind of like too much of that like dirty feeling. So it just kind of felt a little too messed up dirty for me.
That was one in the little bits that they showed. It was very like, what the hell am I watching? So I could
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
imagine what it is in its full form.
So,
What about you, George? What was your weirdest one?
For me, it was the color of your body's tears, and basically because
oh
it
yeah.
reminded me of like a French or I think it was French, right? But like foreign film of Mulholland Drive. That's what it kind of reminded me of. And Mulholland Drive is a weird movie. I have that movie. I've watched it numerous times. I still couldn't tell you what it's really about. At least with this movie, the premise was that there's a guy looking for his wife who's missing, but like that's the simplest thing that could be said. Everything else
Mhm.
is a drug trip of a film. So I'm just like, what the hell?
Mhm.
Like I have it on my list of things I want to watch now because of just how weird it looked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, that's the one. For me, it had to be The Untamed.
Mm.
I knew
Like,
one of us was gonna have that one.
That was
it's
my that was also that was my second one, yeah.
what was it?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
well, it was like a movie, and they even mentioned it was like telenovela, like drama, but with an alien provides pleasure to this woman and other people like in there. Like this movie, the concept of it and what it shows, it sounded like a movie you run into when you download the wrong movie. Like that's what this sounded. You're watching, it's like, wait, this is not the Avengers. Like that type of movie is kind of like what it seemed like. I have no curiosity to watch it at all, but that was probably the weirdest one for me.
So you don't like live action hentai? Is that what you're saying?
Not really for me. I'm not a tentacle person. This showed
uh,
me I'm not a tentacle person.
I saw it. As soon as Jen came home, like hours later, I was like, I think I found a movie for you. I was like,
We watching tonight.
I was like, this is a solo
Um,
trip. This is all you, babe. This is.
had that was my second one that I wanted to say. But to me, it's like if you remove the scenes of the alien intercourse, I'll say, it looks like a really dark and deep storyline, which I think like the rest of the movie
Yeah,
would be very impactful. But and I understand why they have this in it. It's just bizarre. But then it reminded me a little too much of the movie Possession, the 1981 um, Possession starring Isabel
yeah,
Adjani
yeah. I know what you're
and
talking
Sam
about.
Neill. I watched that movie for the first time last year, and it's a cult classic people love. I did not like it. The acting in it was superb. There's like that scene that's kind of like a classic scene where like the girl in the blue dress in the underground subway tunnel is like freaking out, and they actually took that scene and did it differently for the first Omen. And it's a very amazing scene, but there's some of that type of sexual stuff that has to do with like I guess it's supposed to be like a demon type guy. So I was like, oh, this is kind of like movie Possession. So it was like I've seen this done before, just a little bit differently.
I think for me, it wasn't like just that alien part. It was the mix of that with like the soap opera aspect of it, of the storyline. It was just like,
Oh, okay.
married couple, but he's really in love with her brother and they're hooking up behind
Oh
her
yeah.
back. Like it was just, I was waiting for someone to come out and be like, ¿Dónde está el caballo? Like,
Yeah.
it was those things mixed together. I'm like, for me, it wasn't computing. The math wasn't mathing on alien pleasure creature and telenovela like together.
Mm,
I
hmm.
mean, it's obvious what this guy was raised on. Like he was watching Telemundo while watching his not rated Sailor Moon videos, apparently.
Sailor Moon. Yeah, definitely the anime tentacle prawn.
Yeah.
Now, George, you covered on this a little bit. I don't know if it's your selection, but you did say like your weirdest one is one on your list that you do want to see. But like, out of the ones that they did talk about, what was the main one that you came out and you're like, that one. I want to see that one next.
Okay, well, obviously Troll Hunter, but I've heard of Troll Hunter before. I just never seen it. I knew it was like a found footage like staple. And so that clearly is on the top of my list, but the one that's not found footage, because I don't want to be overly predictable, um, was, which I am anyway, and I don't really care, but definitely I want to see Let's Scare Jessica to Death. I haven't heard of that one, and I didn't know anything about it. Like I've never heard of it. So that one really intrigued me, and I would like to see that one.
That was good. That made it into my top three of like wanting to see that I was like debating about. So that one definitely seems like an interesting one.
Well, I like that is it in her mind? Like she is like one recovering from like a mental breakdown, and it's like, is everything happening in her mind, or is it actually happening, but it's like heightened in her mind? It looks kind of paranormal, kind of not, like they said, kind of vampiric, but maybe not. And is like, is she actually going crazy, or is she not going to trust herself because she was once crazy, or is she trying to prove to everybody that she's better now and this is really happening? No one's going to listen to her because she just had a breakdown. Like, just I love all those layers. I love the psychological horror type thing and what's real and what's not. So that one's, yeah, high up there.
I was like, and it's a great title. The
Yes.
title, like there was a few titles alone, and that was one of them where it's just like, you got me with just that. You
Yeah.
straight up like, yeah, let's scare Jessica to death. Show me how you do
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah.
But for me, the one that caught my attention was the Ganja and Hess, just
Oh yeah.
because of the fact, like the idea that it was like impossible to see. Like I felt like out of all the movies that were mentioned, it really truly fit the hidden gem aspect because they said that you only way you could watch it was like through some archives by yourself at this museum or whatever. I was like, wow, that's super freaking like hid away. Like other things, like maybe you just never caught the VHS, but it's like, no, no one got to watch this. This was super locked away. It's like, all right, give me more of these. And like it seemed weird enough, like they talk about the experimentalness of it and everything, and that was more artsy. And so, and this the whole like playing off of the Blackula thing. I grew up watching Blackula and Shaft and stuff like that. So it's like if it's in that kind of wheelhouse, but maybe more dramatized, like yeah, that sounds freaking dope as hell.
Mhm.
What if the reason it's not readily available is because it's cursed and they had to file it away in Nicolas Cage's basement?
Bring it.
Specifically Nicolas Cage's basement.
Yeah,
Yes.
because he bought it and he put it
Yeah.
next to his dinosaur head.
Yeah.
Uh,
The only way you get to watch it if you can dodge his karate kicks. The
the whole time,
whole
the whole
time.
movie.
Yeah.
If you can't dodge one, the movie stops there and you go back upstairs.
Yeah.
For me, like I said, I debated Let's Scare Jessica. I almost chose Fright, especially they were talking about how some of the elements kind of gave way to some of like the killers that we knew later on in 70s, 80s. So it gave me the curiosity of trying to see like what that movie had to offer. Um, but in the end, just because of what seemed like the impact and the backstory and everything that happened because of it, I had to go with one that Marie has talked about before and I hadn't watched yet, which is Ghost Watch. I'm like not seeing like that whole backstory of not only how it played out, but the effect and everything. I was like, I need to watch this. Like now, I need to see what were people freaking out about. So
You did.
that's gonna be out. No, not I
I thought,
haven't.
oh, okay.
No, but it's on my queue. It's gonna be one of the next one that I like knock on. Which speaking of, they did spend a lot of time on that movie. So I did kind of want to dive a little deeper into that again, just because besides its hidden gem like category, because they ended up having to take it off the air because of everything that happened to it, and it had an impact on the society in that area. I want to take a deeper dive on that. So Marie, we'll save you since I know you're a huge fan of this one, and go to George first. But like, what were your thoughts on how Ghost Watch like played out for the audience? Not the movie itself, but like how
Yeah.
that whole situation played out.
Well, first off, fun fact, Marie, you were not alone. I have also seen this movie. And that was because of my days at Famous Monsters. And it was one of the
Nice.
things that we was covered for whatever reasons during some show or whatever. And so I got to learn about all that stuff prior to this episode. And I was equally blown away of like it made me think of War of the Worlds and
Yeah.
just
That's what I
like
have.
the people like it brought that whole thing back again. but in a much better way because War of the Worlds, you're listening to it. But it's like these people are watching newscasters that they know every day.
Hmm.
You know, it's like watching Walter Cronkite. Maybe that's not the best example. It's like it's like my childhood to some extent, but like who's a new caster from today? I don't know. We'll say Oprah. It's like seeing Oprah, you know, go into a haunted house, and you're like, holy shit, Oprah's gonna die. Ghosts are real. Like that
Yeah.
must have been like so crazy for them to just witness this. And like imagine like going to work the next day and it's just like, did you guys see what happened? Like there's I can imagine you want to go into that location and like trying to find out it's like more about that stuff and everything. Like kind of like the Jaws hubbub we talked about before. It's like that cultural impact. Everyone over there in the UK must have wanted to like go and find out more or stay away. Who knows? Maybe we're like, I gotta move. I live near that house. I'm moving out of here.
Yeah, Marie, were your thoughts? You knew about that beforehand before you watched this?
I watched Ghost Watch again for the first time last year, I think, maybe 2 years ago. And watching it around Halloween is the best. So you got to watch it around Halloween, Jose. So wait till Halloween to watch it. Unless you really want to watch it, then fine. I won't pressure you to do what you don't
That
want to
shit
do.
may have
But I'm just
sailed
saying,
already.
Waiting.
It's on the queue. That shit may
Yeah.
have sailed.
okay,
It's already on the
it
queue.
just feel it just feels so good to watch because it's such the Halloweeny vibe of it. When I watched it, I knew that people thought it was real and that people thought it was really happening. I did know that. I didn't know to the extent until I watched this episode of this series how that all of the news reporters were actual, all of them were actual news reporters from the channel, like the women who like go in to like investigate. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were. I thought it was just like, oh, this is a special, we brought in this crew. I didn't know it was like all the real people. And I found that, I'm like, okay, the fact that they got all these people on board to essentially pull up a small scale world's prank, that is like props. Like that is just amazing. That's just so cool. But then I didn't also didn't know that people took it to the extreme and like off themselves and were like that's I understand why they took it off the air. And then they let it breathe. Like they like, okay, we'll keep it off, and then eventually they let it out again. Thank goodness, because now none of us believe anything that we see anymore. So I loved that they did that, and it reminds me. That would remind me of the Blair Witch, but the Blair Witch was a very small scale of what that was. People really believe that. This is why I love found footage, you guys. Like, there's so much. It's just this is one of the reasons why, even though it's like a mockumentary, it's still considered found footage. Anything POV mockumentary, I still consider found footage. It was done so well. The acting was like, oh, the acting for the most part was, it's pretty good. Like, not great all the time, but still, the fact that a whole like nation believed it, oh, it's just you love it so much more because of that fact. The backstory matters.
Yeah, so first, it's funny that we all had War of the Worlds like right away, like off the bat in our notes. But I am the only one, obviously, who did not watch this. So I had heard about it from Marie, but I didn't know the backstory. I didn't know all that. This just brings the intrigue up even higher because of the stakes of when that came out. So I definitely like want to see it. Just to think like the fact that you can create something like this and just kind of have an entire like area just in the palm of your hands with what you created, like literally eating off the palm of your hand, where they're not seeing this as a film, and what we like, we like movies where we can completely immerse ourselves to a point where it feels we're as close as possible to not watching a movie. Like we're mentally inside of that movie. But in this situation, with this happening, it's not a movie for them either. So like that, when this came out, I'm just thinking all those people got like 100% of what we try to grasp when we're watching movies. But it's never 100% for us because you're there sitting watching a movie. For these people, it wasn't a movie. Like there's a little bit of jealousy that I have with these people,
Yeah.
with the fact like they were able to experience that where it wasn't a movie for them. They were part of it, which brings me to my question with this. Like, do you think this would work these days? We had a War of the Worlds to work back during the radio times. Then we had this work, now with like television and broadcast, using trusted, TV personalities that people see on a regular basis to make it work. Marie mentioned to a certain extent, I do remember there were a lot of people believing the Blair Witch aspect.
Yeah.
That again, that was a while ago. Do you guys see with how social media is, with the everyone being skeptical of everything? Uh, can this work these days?
I think we'll still got our skeptics and on both ends, like you got your tin hat foil people who are gonna be like, it's real, but you got people like myself where it's just like CG and computer effects and AI, everything is at such a high level now that my first thought immediately is always going to be like, well, that's not real. It's like UFO sightings.
Mhm.
Where UFO sightings now are at a place where it's like the government straight up says like, yeah, UFOs happen, and it's just like, and even to that point, I'm still just like, I don't know.
Mhm.
It's like I don't think that on the mass scale that these other things had, I don't think we'll ever reach that level again. Like, unless we're all there to see it, and somehow someone David Blaine, Chris Angels us right in front of our eyes, I just don't see a belief factor getting that spread out.
It's hard to say because I do see some of the stuff that people do believe these days. I'm like, how the hell could you believe that? How the heck can you think that this is real? See, my tinfoil hat is the one where that doesn't trust a damn thing. So where mine is. So I don't know. Like, I think you're absolutely right about there's so much like CG, AI stuff. Like you can make anything look like anything. Um, it would have to be something live. But then again, it's like, how do we know this is even live? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah,
too hard
yeah.
to believe anything because like the options are endless. But it would have to be something live. I mean, Zach Bagans tried to do this too before, so it's like a live haunting show, and like you can just fake everything that's happening. So I don't even know. I don't even know. I think obviously there will be people who do believe anything and everything. It kind of makes me sad because when something real does happen, we don't believe it. Like I mean, and then if the government saying that UFOs are real, now I'm like, well, now I don't believe they are. If you're saying it, nah. But yeah, I don't know. It's really a lot more difficult these days. I don't know who could pull it off or how.
It's the how. I think that's the hard
Yeah,
part.
yeah.
Yeah, we are in a very skeptical world now. Sometimes I look in the mirror, I'm like, "Are you real?" I,
Well, there's a clone.
it's like, who are you? Am I the one in the mirror actually? Uh, but you know what? I'm gonna go devil's advocate. I'm gonna go in the opposite of Petra. I feel like it can work, not to the same degree. You're not going to get like an entire country believing something based off of like one singular like piece of media or anything like that. But if there's anything I have seen over the last few years, is you can get a good portion of a very large population, such as the US, to believe almost anything if they have a affinity or a bias towards that already. I mean, it wasn't not that long ago that people were somehow convinced that certain things were happening in certain basements and people started breaking into places to rescue people that weren't in those basements and things like that. So they had a large portion believing something like that. So I think with a targeted, quote unquote misinformation campaign, you could get a large portion of a population, especially in the US, to believe something that isn't real. But I don't think you can do it off of one piece of media itself only. It would have to be an extended prank over time with multiple aspects. And I think you can do it
I
that
feel like
way.
we're
I think
living
that would
that.
that would be the new age way of doing it. I think.
That happens all the time. That's where like, we see that all the time anyway. Not don't want to get political, but yeah, that's like that's what
I, I think the
the
where
new the
matters
news
too.
media is good. The
Yeah.
where?
Where,
I think
where,
the
yeah,
where matters
location.
too.
Location
Yeah.
Yeah,
matters, yeah.
Like
yeah.
I think if
Hmm.
you go to like little civilization that's very sheltered and you fly some futuristic ship, you can convince them that's aliens. They haven't seen that
Hmm.
stuff,
Oh yeah,
you know?
totally.
I think it's possible. It's just going to take a lot bigger effort. And you're not going to be able to get
Hmm.
everyone because there's too many people who will question everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like us.
Yeah. That's me for sure.
They covered 14 hidden gem movies that they specifically kind of got into and talked about. And then according to George's math, there's another 19 that they covered, 19 or 20 that they covered through lists. At the end of the episode, was there anything you were like, I got a couple hidden gems that I can add to this list? Marie, we'll start with you on this
Oh.
one. Any hidden gems that you were like, this would belong in this list?
The movie Mads that just came out last year.
Oh, that's on
And
Shudder.
Yeah.
yeah, have you seen it?
No, it's on the queue, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, well, I feel like this movie was like out and then it got some attention on social media for like a week and then it's like gone. And it's a French movie. Um, it's filmed in one take. And when I say that, people are normally like, "Oh, you mean like it looks like it's in one take?" No. It is filmed. They shot it 3 times, I think, five, six, I don't know. Less than 10 times. They shot the whole entire movie in one take. They used the last one, and then what you see is the whole movie in one take. And it's kind of like an infection movie. And the acting, incredible. Um, uh, Everything about this movie deserves to be seen because just the fact that the way they've shot it, I can't even believe they pulled it off. It's awesome. I loved it. So I'll go with Mads. I'll go with the movie called Coherence, which is more of like a psychological. See, it's hard because it's under horror when I look it up, but it's more like a psychological thriller and it's about an astronaut passing over and stuff happens. That's all I'm gonna say. These people are at a party, okay, like a little gathering. They're like, oh yeah, there's a meteor going over today. Oh, okay. Meteor goes over, and then nothing is what it's supposed to be anymore. I'll just do it like that.
Yeah.
So Coherence, loved it. I've seen it several times and I loved it. Okay, I'm gonna pick one found footage one, and that one is going to be it's a movie called The Conspiracy, and it is a
That
found
almost
footage
made my
slash
list. I will say that.
yes, a found footage slash mockumentary type movie, and it's newer and it's Canadian, I think, right? Anyway, it's kind of like have you heard of the Grove? That Grove where all the rich people go and there's an owl statue.
But with
Bohemian Grove.
yeah,
Okay. The
Okay.
Bohemian Grove is a restricted campground in Monte Rio, California, founded in 1878. It belongs to a private gentleman's club. So anyway, it's a real place, and they took stuff from Bohemian Grove and put it in aspects of it and put it in this movie. And it's about these two like documentary filmmaker guys trying to infiltrate this rich man's club, and it's really cool and it's right up my alley. And I'm watching the movie. I'm like, how is this being shown? It's not real, but they take footage of actual things that are considered conspiracy theories, and they're calling them conspiracy theories, like in the movie as well, like 9/11 and all that. So, I'm like, how is this allowed? Why did they ban this? But anyway, the conspiracy is really good.
I second that one. That's a good one. Which is funny because that was a similar direction that I thought Late Night with the Devil was going to
So
get
there we
into a
go.
little
Yeah.
bit more. Was going to be that,
And they
and they kind
didn't.
of dropped the ball on that.
Yeah.
So
I was so excited when I saw that owl, and I'm like, oh, this is what they're gonna do, and they never did, and yeah, that was a letdown. But yeah, same type of thing.
I'm gonna go next, George, on this one.
Yeah.
So the first one that I have is a movie called Splinter. The story is basically a couple gets carjacked and kidnapped. They end up like stuck in a gas station, but there's like a weird, like deadly parasite that's basically like puppeteering the bodies of those that it kills. It like animates like their bodies, so they're trapped inside of here with this thing outside, trying to find a way out. But like this movie, like it can get tense and it has some brutal like body horror included in it because of the essence of what this like Parasite is. It's just I thought it was a really good low budget horror that ends up being a fun watch. So that's the first like hidden gem. that I see pop up here and there, but I never see people talking about it. Another one that I have is one called Terrified. It's an Argentinian movie. This one is like, a neighborhood is experiencing like this supernatural like occurrences, and people are dying. This woman who lost her child to like a bus accident. She ends up like calling a like paranormal like well, first she calls like the police commissioner. Paranormal investigator gets involved because like she found muddy footprints leading to a the decomposed body of her son sitting in the kitchen just chilling there. So like that's kind of what starts off everything with this movie. So now the investigator and the police commissioner begin investigating what is happening in this neighborhood. This one just has some like really good like creepy moments and good like imagery going on, and it gets it going right off the first scene. It isn't a movie that kind of slow burns the beginning. Like right off the bat, it's giving you like some stuff to kind of hang on to for the rest of the movie. So that's my second one that I feel is like a little hidden gem. Even the poster for it looks stupid, but the movie itself isn't. So many times I passed this and I saw a poster and I'm like, scroll through into like I read the description. I'm like, all right, let me try it.
But that
Uh,
scene you mentioned is one of the creepiest scenes in any
yes,
movie I've seen. It's so good.
and
Anyway,
it was actually included on a different Shutter. No, it was a Shutter or was it on Tubi?
I think
The
it's Shudder.
scariest
Yeah.
like scenes. It was included in that one. The last one I have here is one called The Signal. There's multiple movies that share a similar title. This one specifically is a 2007 one, done by David Buckner, Dan Bush, and Jacob Gentry. So in this one, there's this unknown transmission that takes over TV, phones, radio, and it starts turning people into raging killers if they're exposed to this signal in there. What's cool is the movie. It's pretty much revolving around the same event, but from three different perspectives, and each perspective is a different director in there. So each director handles
Oh.
one of those perspectives. So that was real cool the way he did it. This is another low budget, but the low budget doesn't hold it back. And when I say low budget, like I mean this was filmed in less than 2 weeks and had a budget of 50K. Like that was it for this. Yeah, and it doesn't hinder the movie. And also this movie, it gets pretty brutal in there at all. So it's definitely worth the watch. A very low key movie that I feel there's probably so many movies called The Signal, including foreign movies, that this kind of just gets lost in the pack. But that would be the third one.
think we got some good lists so far. So I'll go with my three. I always try to spread it out amongst the decades here.
Mm,
So my first one comes from 1968 and it's called The Green Slime. I'm actually wearing the shirt right now.
nice.
This was directed by the same director as Battle Royale, and it was
Oh,
written by the one of the creators of Batman, Bill Finger. So this is
okay.
one of those things that people just kind of like they kind of gloss over,
Yeah.
but it's on the face value, it's like space horror with a monster that's killing everybody, whatever. But having that director come in with like the Americans and everything, I think it was American, right? But like he brings in like that Japanese horror style that kind of just flips everything on its head and it just changes everything up. Like even though it's older, you can still feel some of that foreign influence in there, where it's not just the typical beat by beat of plain old sets and people just being scared for no reason kind of thing. I feel like this just kind of jumps out as a more unique thing that I don't know if we've actually seen or heard of. So I
I
think
haven't.
it's worth checking out if you want to see something more retro. For my third one, I'm going with Doll Man versus Demonic Toys.
What?
I mean, except my third, sorry, my second one. That's my second. This came out in 1993. It was under the
Nice.
Full Moon Studios banner. Full Moon is known for being low budget or indie horror film company. Think almost like Trauma to some extent. But this was the first time I saw franchises collide to some extent, or like a universe being built. Nowadays we have the MCU and even Alien versus Predator and all that stuff, and it's kind of like commonplace now. But back then you hadn't seen movies do this. So there was a movie called Doll Man, and there was a movie called Demonic Toys. Doll Man is this like 12-inch dude from another planet who's a bounty hunter, and he's coming after like a criminal or whatever, and they end up on Earth. And of course, like on Earth, we're all big size, and he's this little dude with this mega cannon gun that can like shoot a hole in a human-sized head, just like blow it into pieces. And then Demonic Toys is just like these toys that are possessed from like a toy warehouse. And now they just, for some reason, they thought, why not put these two things together? And it's just, it doesn't have let's say the scare factor per se, but the fun factor is through the roof because it's just ridiculousness at every turn. So I definitely advise if you want us to turn your brain off good time, this is one of those kind of films.
It makes sense. He battled humans and he was like, you know what, let me pick on someone my own size,
Exactly.
and go
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
toys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these are toys you're not going to be on their side. It's not like Puppet Master, also from Full Moon. Puppet Master, you kind of have a liking to them. These toys are freaking douchebags. They deserve to all die. They're not cute. They're the forgotten toys that Rudolph's elf friend
Misfits.
should be throwing off.
The Misfit toys, yeah.
All right, so for my number three, I'm going with a movie from 2016, and it's called The Unseen. The director of this, which is Jeff Redknapp, is probably not known much for his directing as much as he's known for doing the special effects makeup on movies like Deadpool and Wolverine. Actually, all the Deadpool movies. He did Last of Us. He did Ghostbusters Afterlife, Prey, Cabin in the Woods. Like his special effects career is through the roof. And he uses that knowledge in this movie terrifically. It's a movie about practically the Invisible Man, but it's a new take on the Invisible Man and kind of flips it on his head and puts it in a way of like, what if it was something that was hereditary? What if the Invisible Man had a son and now the son has this invisible disease? But you don't turn invisible all at once. You don't control the invisibility. It kind of just comes in slowly, almost like that skin disease, was it reticula or something like that? I forget how it's pronounced, but like where you got like the white spots and everything and they kind of grow over time. It's like that, but invisible. So just seeing parts of his body kind of just disappear, and like it might just be skin. So the skin's disappearing, but you can see the musculature, but the musculature is going away. So now you just see bone, and just the way he plays with that as the movie progresses, and just how you could see through him at times and other stuff. Super cool. It's definitely more dramatic and suspense thriller because you're trying to solve a mystery along the way. But the effects and how it's all played out, wonderful.
George, at first you had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
That's Jose's like slogan. That's your
I mean, it's a great phrase.
I feel between some of the stuff that was on the episode and then some of the stuff on Marie's list and your list, like my queue is growing a little bit, which saves me because so many times where I'm just like scrolling and searching for 45 minutes when I only had 2 hours to watch a movie, and I'm like, damn it, I should have just picked something.
Yeah.
So
yes.
the queue is very vital
Mhm.
when this happens. I want to say, like overall, going through the episodes and everything, what was your overall thoughts on the episode? George, we'll start with you on this one.
This was the episode we were anticipating. This is the episode we were excited about, and I think it paid off. I think it came through for the most part on everything. And I like that for one of the movies, granted, I didn't need this, but for the regular viewer, there was a spoiler warning. That's
Yes.
something we hadn't seen in any of the episodes prior to this that I can recall, but they actually gave the spoiler, and it's like, all right, fast forward right now if you don't want to know what's going to happen.
And we complained
Yeah.
about that from last season.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think we even mentioned it in our last episode. And so it's just
Yeah.
like, they're listening. Okay. So I really like that. But I thought there was truly some real hidden gems. And they legit caught my interest. I was like, all right, even if it was just a scene in passing, that's been some of the things in the last episode or so, where it's just like some of those scenes that are just there for filler and to help convey a certain thought they're having aren't always the greatest filler scenes. I thought the filler scenes in this were it's just like they didn't talk about that movie, but you know what? That quick clip caught my attention. The name alone caught my attention. It's like I'm okay. Like you guys are coming through right now. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, I love this episode. I feel like this should almost be its own show. Like they should just have like the Hidden
Yeah.
Gems horror show. Like please have this be a recurring episode every season. Like I could use a couple of these a season just because we always want to be introduced to new movies. And I think that this is probably one of my favorite episodes just because I don't think I've like written down as many movies like, oh, I want to watch that. The last one I did was the Japanese horror episode. So I wrote notes down for there that I wanted to see. But I was like, oh, there's some like really good ones ones that look good that I'm very interested in, and I want to see more episodes like this one.
Not to sound redundant, I'm on board with, what you guys said regarding this episode. This episode lived up to the name, which we said
Mhm.
from the last episode, it didn't fully live up to the name. Like you can easily argue, like, does that fit? Does that not fit? But here it fully lived up. Like I remember myself watching an episode of something and being happy about not having seen something because I was just like, all
Yeah,
right, yes, good, I didn't see it. Good, I didn't see it. That's what I was expecting. And I'm also coming out of this with a lot of movies. So, we're back on track, ladies and gentlemen. Episode two was a
yeah,
little, was a little bit of a dip, but it looks like we're back
yeah.
on track regarding this. Now, going into next episode, it's going to be revolving around film scores. The description of it is composers have used every style of music to frighten audiences. Now I'm really curious about this episode. Like w- we know the big guns, the big, the ones that even people who don't watch horror movies know exactly what that goes to, and I'm sure those are going to be talked about. Me personally, I'm curious. Are there going to be some low key ones that they're going to touch on that maybe a lot of people don't know, or are they going to touch on some that maybe influence some of the ones that are very famous in the future? So like that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for in this one is besides the ones that are, you know, dear to us and we love, like what about the other ones? Are we going to cover any other ones? Anything that you guys are looking forward to or hoping they include in the episode? Let's start with you, Marie.
Oh, there's so many. The music part of movies is so important to me, and I want to see some scores from movies that I haven't seen, and I want to watch the movie based on the score alone. I'll say that
Mm.
because that will get me. Because I already have a list of the ones that I love, and there's some that it's like I love this movie, but the score is a huge part as to why I love the movie so much. So I yes, I
What about you, George?
I'm curious to see like I like the how things are created kind of aspect of stuff. So it's like, maybe there wasn't a traditional instrument that was used, or maybe it was morphed in a way to create that certain sound, that they were going for, or they didn't know that they wanted. Maybe they were searching for it. I'm curious to see like if we'll get to hear or see some of that. Of just like, I banged a trash can and it's like, wow, that was a cool twang. Let me record that and put that into like this filter. Like stuff like that would be, I think, really cool to learn about.
That's a good point. I am
mhm.
hoping that it seems like they might touch on that because you hear in their little like 10-second teaser that they had in there talking about like how a certain song came about. So
Yeah.
maybe they will get into it. I hope they get into it. So that's a very good point. Uh, but you can tune in next week when we do a coverage of episode 4. Make sure you tune in to our previous bonus episodes revolving around horror's greatest. We've already covered the first and the second one. You can find that on our YouTube page. You can find our show on, besides YouTube, all other platforms where you can find podcasts. You can also find us on all the social media platforms, X slash Twitter, Instagram, Threads. We're all over the place too. Make sure that you like and subscribe if you liked the content. If you didn't like the content, tell us what we can do better. But also, is there any hidden gems that they didn't cover and we didn't cover? My queue is waiting to keep adding movies to it. So the more you can give me, the better and happier that I will be. I have been your host for this episode, Jose.
I've been your other guy, George.
And I'm Marie.
And we will see you next week.